about communication, being the ultimate pro, just making sure you don't let things fester.
What started as a routine game for the Indiana Fever quickly spiraled into one of the most haunting and unforgettable nights of the WNBA season. It was supposed to be just another contest, another battle on the court, another chance for Indiana to claw its way toward playoff security. But in an instant, the energy inside the arena shifted. The kind of moment that turns a game into a memory, and a victory into a tragedy. Early in the first half, Sophie Cunningham, the gritty enforcer who had become the glue of Indiana's roster, in Caitlin Clark's absence, went down hard. The collision looked brutal, the kind of impact you never want to see in sports. 1 second, she was stepping in to help on defense. The next, she was writhing on the hardwood, clutching her right leg. Invisible agony as teammates and trainers rushed to her side. For Indiana, a team already battered by injuries and held together by nothing more than resilience and sheer stubbornness.
Obviously, we're taking this really seriously. We had the most participation in league history. I think we had close to 40 players.
This felt like the cruelest blow yet. The Fever have been living on the edge of collapse all season, their roster gutted by one setback after another. Yet Cunningham had stepped into that void with fire, becoming their defensive anchor, their emotional spark, the player who was never afraid to scrap, fight, and protect her teammates. When she dropped to the floor, crying out in pain, it wasn't just a player's knee that buckled. It felt as though the entire season might have snapped with her. What made the moment even more painful for Fever fans was who was involved. The collision came courtesy of Bria Hartley, a Connecticut Sun guard whose reputation across the league has grown darker with each passing month. This wasn't just an unlucky fall. To Indiana supporters, it was part of a larger, frustrating pattern. Hartley has been ejected multiple times this season, caught yanking opponents down by their hair, slamming bodies to the floor, and playing with a recklessness that critics argue has no place in basketball.
Changed because I've always said Aaliyah's a great playmaker. If you watch her game, you know how good she is with the ball in her hands. She brings the...
Just days earlier, she had literally pulled Angel Reese out of the air by her ponytail. Now, she had crashed into Cunningham's planted leg with the force of a wrecking ball, leaving one of Indiana's toughest players screaming on the court. The Fever bench, their fans, even Cunningham's family watching from home, all knew this wasn't just another bruise. Sophie is known for her toughness, the type of competitor who brushes off contact and refuses to stay down. But this time was different. She couldn't get up. She needed help just to leave the court, unable to put any weight on her leg. And the tears streaming down her face told the entire story. This wasn't just pain. This was devastation. Cunningham's sister, Lindsay, vented her outrage on social media almost immediately, blasting the WNBA for failing to protect its athletes.
Home with family and friends. It's been 6 years since I've been able to play here since Missouri, and so...
Maybe focus less on fining players for comments about poor officiating, she wrote, and more on hiring officials who can call a consistent game and keep players safe. Pathetic. Her mother echoed the sentiment, calling Hartley a disgruntled player who had developed a reputation for meanness everywhere she went. The Cunningham family didn't mince words, and honestly, they didn't need to. Anyone who had watched the game unfold saw exactly what they meant. For the Fever, this was the nightmare scenario. Their season was already hanging by a thread. Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom and centerpiece of the franchise, had now missed 13 straight games with a groin injury. Other key players had been sidelined with season-ending setbacks, and Cunningham had been the one holding everything together with her grit, her defense, and her leadership.
In our league meeting, I think it just sends a really strong message that we're standing really firm on the...
Losing her felt like the final nail in the coffin, and the scoreboard only made the picture bleaker. By halftime, Indiana trailed by 19. Early in the third quarter, the deficit stretched to 21. Their season wasn't just in danger. It looked dead in the water. But sometimes in sports, the darkest moments spark the brightest comebacks. What happened next will be remembered as one of the most improbable, jaw-dropping rallies in modern WNBA history. It started quietly, almost unnoticeably. A defensive stop here, a bucket there. Then suddenly, Kelsey Mitchell caught fire. The veteran guard, who had looked frustrated and ineffective through the first half, found another gear. With her team's season slipping away, she transformed into a force of nature, scoring at will, pushing the pace, and refusing to let Indiana fold. Possession after possession, she pulled the Fever back into the game with a determination that bordered on defiance. By the time the fourth quarter hit, the Suns' 21-point cushion had evaporated. Indiana clawed back, not just with Mitchell's brilliance, but with contributions from every player brave enough to step on that floor. Odyssey Sims, fresh off signing a hardship contract, played like she had been with the team all year, scoring 19 points and dishing out 7 assists. Aaliyah Boston put together one of her most complete performances of the season, tallying 14 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists, all while battling inside against Connecticut's imposing front court. Natasha Howard chipped in 18 points, Brianna Turner gave valuable defensive minutes, and then came Lexi Hull, whose dagger 3 in overtime sealed the kind of win that can define an entire season.
Really fortunate is that we have those other deals, and I think that's one of the things that we're in the room fighting for.
And at the center of it all was Mitchell, whose second half belonged to legend. After scoring just 4 points in the first 2 quarters, she erupted for 34 in the second half and overtime, tying her career high with 38. She scored all 10 of Indiana's points in overtime, including back-to-back threes, that silenced the Connecticut crowd and left even her teammates shaking their heads in disbelief. The raw numbers tell part of the story: 11 for 22 shooting, 5 for 8 from deep, 11 of 12 from the line. But the bigger truth is that she didn't just score points, she willed her team to victory. By the time the final buzzer sounded, Indiana had pulled off the biggest comeback in franchise history. From down 21 to an overtime victory, they had turned despair into triumph, heartbreak into hope. And they did it without Sophie Cunningham, the player who had been their rock. The post-game scene was emotional. The Fever's locker room wasn't celebrating like a group that had just shocked the league. They were embracing one another, reminding each other that resilience wasn't just a word on a whiteboard, it was their way of life. Coach Stephanie White praised her players for their connectedness, their toughness, and their refusal to quit. And she was right. This wasn't just a basketball win. It was proof of what belief, unity, and raw determination can do when everything else is stripped away. Yet the story lingers in 2 halves. On one hand, Indiana pulled off a miracle, a comeback that defied probability and redefined their season. On the other, Sophie Cunningham's injury cast a long, dark shadow. The anger at Bria Hartley and at the league's officials hasn't faded. Many believe this injury was avoidable, the product of a WNBA that has allowed reckless, overly physical play to become normalized. Fans, players, and even families are asking how many more stars have to go down before the league takes action. But perhaps that is what makes this night so unforgettable. Because even as Indiana absorbed what could have been a season-ending blow, they responded with their greatest display of resilience yet. They turned pain into power, chaos into composure, and a broken moment into something unforgettable. The Fever's win moved them to 19-16 on the season, 2.5 games clear of the Sparks and firmly in the playoff picture. With just 9 games left, this comeback could be the turning point that defines their run. Whether Sophie returns or not, the message was clear. This team won't be broken, not by injuries, not by reckless opponents, not by anything. In the U. And that's what makes sports beautiful. They can devastate you one moment and inspire you the next.
When I'm done, but I'm a present person. I'm where my 2 feet are at. But I do think I could talk to a wall clearly.
And on this night, the Indiana Fever reminded the world that sometimes the heart of a team beats loudest when it's under attack. So what do you think? Was Bria Hartley's collision with Sophie Cunningham just an accident? Or was it the latest in a string of reckless plays that the league needs to take seriously? And does this comeback prove that the Fever are legitimate playoff contenders, or was it just a flash of magic born from desperation? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you believe stories like this, filled with heartbreak, resilience, and triumph, are what makes sports worth watching, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join the conversation.